Welcome to Music City Horror.
All right, welcome to the show. This is episode 10. Today we're going to kind of do a recap. This will be the best of 2017 from Music City Horror. We've only been doing this since September, but of course there's been things going on before we started, so we just thought it would be a good episode to kind of refresh, look back at some of the stuff, and there was a lot of, especially on my end, there was a lot more horror-related things out in pop culture than I realized. So we're going to kind of bypass everything else and just kind of go into the recap side of things. So KB, Kayla, Elena, I'm Eli. So I think we're going to, did we say KB starting or Elena starting? I can't remember.
I think I said that I was starting.
Cool.
Yes.
Yep.
You have the floor.
Oh, well, we're saving the word diarrhea for last.
Nice. I wonder who has that.
Right. So there weren't any new things this week. We're going to go ahead and skip my normal segment, but I am going to go ahead and start off the list with I can't say it was unanimous. The 2 unanimous decisions and then one that was 3 out of 4.
Well, you ruined the list. It was perfect. It was perfect until you ruined it.
I ruined it.
You blew it.
So, of course, I believe all of our number 1 choices was, drumroll please, It.
Woo!
I always feel like every time I say it, it's like people are like, it what?
Yeah. I know, I'll ask people, like, have you seen it? And they're like, I've seen what?
Have I seen what?
Yeah. Or like, you can download it on iTunes. Oh, okay, but what can you download on iTunes?
Which I'm holding off on because we still have a couple of weeks before the DVD comes out, Blu-ray, special edition, fancy packaging that I'm sure we'll all end up getting. But come on, guys. Oh, yeah. Movie of the year?
Totally. I'm going for it.
I mean, I think it exceeded, I think, even conservative, numbers or what they were forecasting. And at this point, I think it is the official highest grossing horror movie of all time. Is that correct? I think it passed The Exorcist.
Yes. Movie of the year.
Yeah.
Of course. Straight up movie of the year.
Yeah.
I would say movie of the last couple of years, in my opinion. It was, especially going back and being in the middle of kind of, rereading the book and rewatching all of the original series. It's revived that story in a way that it translated, how many years later? Does anybody remember when the original come out off the top of their head? Because I don't remember.
The TV show?
Yes.
90?
90. Like 90 or 91.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's been a long damn time. So to be able to really bring that into, back into Pennywise being one of the most iconic villains ever created and completely revamping that character. Obviously, probably in the future, we're going to learn more about him. It did so many things. I can't even start to talk about it. It was such a game changer for a lot of us.
Yeah, I think one thing that we probably can talk about for just a couple minutes is Mr. Skarsgård's performance, Bill. I'd only known him from Hemlock Grove on Netflix, which, it was fine.
He was good, but the show was bad.
Yeah, it was
very true.
I don't know. There was something missing with it overall, and I don't know if it was like the way it was shot or I don't know. It just I don't think I finished the second season.
Man, I didn't finish like the second episode.
Yeah,
same.
I really pushed through the first half of the first season, and then I never finished the rest.
I mean, I think
Aaron
the first
Aaron
season's
did,
tolerable.
but he said that it wasn't even worth looking at.
Yeah, I mean,
Wow.
the first season was, it got A to B. I mean, it was tolerable. The second season, and I don't remember her name. It was one of the girls from Orange Is the New Black. She was on there, and I think I got like 2 episodes into the second one, and then I didn't even know they were doing a third season, and then I obviously lost interest from there. But I think anyone that was going to attempt to follow Tim Curry's role, he's got so many iconic roles. It's hard to pick one, but that's obviously probably top 3. I think he definitely exceeded expectations in his role, for sure.
Oh, sure. It could have been a disaster, if you don't get it perfect or different enough from Tim Curry. It's just going to be terrible. He's the center of the film, so I was like really nervous when it first started coming out that they were remaking it, and I was just so excited that it just beat every person's expectation. It was just so much better than we even thought it would be. It's awesome.
Yeah, I agree. When they first started showing pictures of Pennywise, I was like, I don't know, because I love the old one so much. But I mean, just going in thinking like it's its own movie. I mean, it was just the best.
I've had to really remind myself over the past several years, especially with the whole comic book, movement that's been going on, is that you really have to remove any ideas or any information from like books and stuff like that, because if you go in expecting it to be the exact same thing, you're going to be disappointed, and it's going to ruin your movie experience. Now, the difference between them not making it true to canon and it being a bad movie are very, very different. So you can go into a movie and you can accept some changes and the movie can still be good. But like Suicide Squad, that movie was atrocious.
It was
Anyone
bad.
that says otherwise is wrong. But it's because the movie was bad, not because they deviated from the comic books. So I think that, it's cool that it was a lot closer to the book itself, but we've got more time since it's a movie. It's not I guess the miniseries was technically like 3 hours long, 3 or 4 hours. But there's so much in that book that even 3 or 4 hours is not going to cover it. So changes have to be made and things have to be cut. So we get a chapter 2, and I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I was nervous because Cary Fukunaga, who he was most famous. He did True Detective, the good first season, and then he also did Beast of No Nation. I think that was a Netflix movie. He was attached to this, and I think he was. I don't know if it was his idea or not, but he was the one that really was pushing for the 2 movie idea, separating it, doing one as the kids and one as the adults. And he obviously didn't direct the film, and it was Andy, Muschietti, I think is how you say it. And I mean, he had like 1 credit to his. I mean, he did some stuff back in Argentina, but he had like 1 short film. It was called Mama that he did. So it was kind of a rookie director. Bill Skarsgård was not as younger than his brother, who was on True Blood and some other thing. So the kids obviously were fresh faced. So I think it was a really big gamble, but I don't know what happened. But all the elements were created in the crock pot correctly, and it came out just excellent. Yes. Because you even had people that just weren't diehard horror fans like us that create a podcast that, were loving it. I mean, you had just average moviegoers that were going to see it, I mean, it was a big, big, big movie. So.
Yeah, I mean, when I went out on Halloween night dressed as Georgie, I mean, lots of, teenagers and even younger than that knew who I was.
That's incredible.
So that was crazy.
I'm sure there'll be stock Pennywise costumes in the Halloween stores next year.
Oh,
I'm sure.
Undoubtedly.
Oh, and one of my favorite toy companies, they're called NECA. They are doing a Pennywise toy next year, and they kind of gave an in-process or behind-the-scenes photos the other day, and there was just some 3D sketches of his face. You didn't really see it, but it was kind of, you could tell who it was, and then they had the red balloon. So it's I think it's going to be good. So, unrelated, kind of related.
Yeah.
So what out of 10 would you give it? Let's rate these things.
I guess 10. I mean,
10. No,
10
I
out of
agree.
10.
I agree. 10 out of 10. I mean, but can it only go downhill from here, I'm kidding.
I think
I'm totally kidding. I think they're gonna kill it.
I think it just comes down to who they cast. I think that
this is the make or break period, really.
Yeah, I think the kids was a trickier of the two, just because I think Kayla is the one that's really against kid actors.
Okay, I'm not against them. I just struggle with the precociousness of a lot of young actors, and find them really annoying. So,
and that's why when you find someone that's good, it's like, it's almost alarming because there's so many. I mean, they're kids; they don't really know what they're doing. So,
I mean, it's something that they're going to have to make sure that chemistry between the children and the vibe and the small details of these kids acting really kind of translates to the adults, and the adults make it believable. Like that was them as children, or they're just going to be an actor up on a screen and nobody's going to connect.
Yeah,
sure.
I have my prediction is I think part 2 is going to be more brutal.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I can see that.
For sure. I mean, it was pretty good. I mean, they went for it in the first half. So, does anybody have any casting hopes or predictions?
Ooh.
I've heard Jessica Chastain. I don't know if that's like a real thing, or she's just throwing her name in the hat or whatever. But I've heard her name thrown around.
Yeah.
I hope they give a chance for it to not just be like, let's get the biggest actors,
right,
who are, who look like the kid characters, and just
which
throw
I
them
don't
there.
I don't think they did that with the kids,
right?
Other than Finn Wolfhard, who is in Stranger Things, but I think that it would. I mean, they did cast Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise. I mean, he's not a well-known actor. I mean, even though he's good, he's not well-known.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, he was the quote-unquote biggest name, and I only knew it because of Hemlock Grove. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty much all unknown people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope they do more of that. I'd like to see it kind of be a good vehicle for some interesting actors that we otherwise maybe not have heard of a lot, or just needed the right project to be really successful and to really shine. So I hope we see a lot of that too.
Yeah.
So
I'm trying to think of people that I wish. I really, really want Chris Pratt to play Ben. That's all I could ever ask for, is that Chris Pratt play Ben. It's probably very unlikely, but I really love Chris Pratt, and I can just see that happening for some reason, and I feel like it would be really good.
Yeah.
And Adam Scott, I want Adam Scott to be Eddie.
Yeah, I was thinking
he would be a fun Eddie.
Kind of Adam Scott, which he could be in anything, and I would watch. So it's kind of hard. I'm having a hard time. I think it's going to come down to maybe it's a mix of, maybe those two, and then just smaller,
There's mention of someone wanting Jordan Peele to play Mike.
Oh, yeah.
I think that would be pretty cool.
That would be
probably
pretty cool.
love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I guess we can parlay. We can end our It conversation and parlay into the next choice, which was the one that was not unanimous. This was not on my list, so I'm probably gonna sit in the background for most of this one. Drum roll, please. Number 2.
I don't want to give you a drum roll.
Was Get Out. So you guys have fun.
Okay, so
I
so
have
here's-
to say it was not.
I said, KB, it was not on my list either, which I did not dislike it. I just wasn't super crazy about it. I enjoyed it.
Okay, that was me. I thought it was a good movie,
But
but I just don't really care about it that much.
Yeah. Like, I'm not going to buy the DVD.
Right. I thought that it was on your list. I apologize. So that was 2. That was 2 against 2.
Well, Eli and I we can take over this one.
Go for it. Have at it.
Now 2 of our hosts look like they're racist. I mean, what are we gonna do?
Oh, come on. You went there.
Oh, no.
You're the one that went there.
Okay, so let's just confirm this. You both did watch it, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. You just don't feel it's in a top 3 of the horror movies this year.
Not for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm just not super partial to movies like that.
I guess I thought it was going to be a lot scarier than it was. But I do appreciate it for what it was.
No, I liked it, but it just wasn't. I
it
like
got
other
so
things
confused.
more.
Yeah.
I appreciate, and I'm glad that it was made from a social standpoint.
Well, that helps a little.
But as a movie, come on, man. Really?
I mean, there's
You're
people.
gonna go there?
There's people that didn't like it. I mean, it's. I will say.
Yeah,
I
racist
think
people
as
didn't
of
like it
I think
because-
as of now, I think it is rated higher than it at the current time.
Yeah.
But it's just 2 completely different. You know, to me, this is our generation's. Night of the Living Dead. I mean, it has as much to do with the commentary as it is, the horror and the gore. And I'll agree. I definitely thought it was going to be more, I guess, gore or scary or whatever. But it actually starts. Excuse me. It actually starts when they get pulled over by the cop. That's when it started, to me, coming off more of a Night of the Living Dead. She basically didn't want to show her ID and get all that stuff going because there would have been a paper trail, and someone would have known that those 2 were stopped on the way back to the house and all that kind of stuff. So it started pretty early. And so just the more it just kind of went downhill, or uphill or downhill. I don't know what I'm trying to say. It was a snowball. It kind of just it just kept growing and growing and growing. So just from a director's debut, from the leads, and it's pretty funny because even her parents, who are kind of like the main villains, they come off as, liberal, and, they're talking about they voted for Obama, and, they live in the South and all this kind of stuff.
That's the facade. That's the facade.
Yeah.
And it's scary because this is the world that we live in.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
I from that standpoint, I am petrified. The movie made me uncomfortable, which is what it was supposed to do, to really show on this global platform what 2017 was actually all about. So, this is not a political podcast, so I'm not going to go into a rant because God knows nobody wants that to happen. But, I mean, it was a movie that needed to happen. And if it didn't scare the shit out of you, then something's wrong.
Sure, and I think you're right. It was a movie that came out at the exact perfect time when we needed to see it. And I mean, I am totally obsessed with this movie. I'm a big sucker for anything that's like, we're going to reveal cultural anxieties right now. I'm like, yes, give it all to me. So, and I'm searching for it all the time, even if it's in a shitty movie. And I'm like, this isn't here, but I'm going to keep digging anyway. So I really liked this, and I just thought it was in the hands of the best person, someone who's one of us, like a horror fan, who really wanted to see a story that he recognized and related to on the screen. Oh yeah, like it was. The director is, somebody who also loves horror so much, and he wants to see a story like this on the screen. And it's like, make the movie that you want to watch, that you need to watch. And I think that that's exactly what he did. And I just think that it was perfect to me. And I think I didn't mind that it didn't have a lot of gore. Maybe it's because I don't really care too much about lack of gore. It doesn't turn me off. But I think the tension was, it does lean a little bit more on like the terror side rather than horror side. But I think that was really just gets under your skin and just makes you feel so much just beyond like, wow, I jumped a few times and that was scary. It just really drives you to think so deeply about the movie itself. And I just thought it was just totally brilliant. So I hope that he wins lots of Oscars and Golden Globes and stuff.
Absolutely.
So we can get more like this. I think that's the thing is like, give me more of this.
It wasn't on my list purely out of personal preference. It just wasn't my kind of movie. Like, it's not something that I'm going to be constantly reaching for to rewatch.
Oh, sure. And and this movie is up my alley. Like, it was like perfect fit for my kind of taste. So, totally get it.
Yeah, and I think that's why there was those jackasses that, lowered the rating on Rotten Tomato, because it was, that kind of thing. They went in like, oh, this is going to be a new modern horror classic, whatever, and then it's more of a, use your brain and think about stuff, and, I'm sure some people down here in the South didn't appreciate that, so.
Of course.
But anyways, it's kind of anything that pushes the conversation. That movie came out in January or February of this year, not around Halloween, and it just gangbusters. You know what I mean? So anything that kind of continues to keep the door open, and obviously he's a fan of this genre. He's got not a sequel, but his next movie is also kind of a I guess you'd call it like a modern cultural thriller kind of deal. He also is going to be producing the Twilight Zone reboot. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So
that'll be great.
Yeah. So I think more pros came out of this than cons. Much to KB's chagrin.
No, I have nothing against the movie. It just wasn't on my list.
Yeah, and she's not really racist. We were just kidding.
Like, damn, make me out to be the bad guy because I didn't. But I'm not the only one.
That's true.
Okay. Yeah,
that's true.
I don't dislike it. It just didn't make my list.
Yeah, I agree.
So what was the third one then?
So the third one, which everybody's going to be super surprised about this, I'm sure, was Stranger Things 2.
Woo-hoo.
And we just recently had an entire episode about it. Those were the three big blockbusters for this year, and the fact that a Netflix series is in the top 3 is, to me, really interesting.
For sure.
Yeah. I think it was one of the few shows that lived up to the hype, and I think Kayla and KB, or one or the other, has mentioned that this is probably the biggest Netflix show they've ever done. You don't really see House of Cards shirts at Target, and you didn't see people dressing up as Frank Underwood and all that kind of stuff. So I think they gave him enough freedom and time to put it out, because the first season came out last summer, and then the second season came out this October, so they gave him extra time to write it and shoot it and get it out. So so I won't talk much about it since we just did an episode about it. So.
Right. I mean, I think everybody pretty much agrees that it was fantastic. It had its minimal flaws, but Stranger Things 2 lived up to the first season. Everybody loved it. That I don't think we really need to say who wants to recount their MVPs real quick. Eli, who's your MVP?
Like
of the show.
Oh, of Stranger Things?
Yeah, pulling it back to our Stranger Things episode. Who is your MVP?
Let's see. I have my notes right here.
I know. I'm like racking my brain. Like, who did we say? Who did we say?
Hey, and maybe it'll change from the last episode. This was supposed to be quick. This was quick fire.
Yeah. I'll say mine is Dustin from Stranger Things.
Okay. Mine was Steve.
I think I'm saying something different, but I'm going to throw a wrench in it and go for Joyce.
Okay.
This time. Holding it down.
Okay.
Yeah, holding it down.
Eli?
Give me
Come on, quick fire.
Second.
No, you're ruining this.
Well, I don't think I found...
Just say Steve. Just say Steve.
Just say whoever...
Default. Steve.
Well, I don't think I can find my notes, so...
Well,
actually,
you ruined the quick fire, so...
Okay, so my MVPs were Dustin, Steve, and Will.
Okay.
And that was just because it was a three-way tie. Dustin, I think, had the most solo scenes. Steve, obviously, his transformation with his character. And Will finally was a part of the show. And I think the way, just the emotion he could convey, and like he's an incredible actor. I do say honorable mention was Bob. I got to slide him down a little bit. I think those three are more important because originally Bob was going to die like in episode 2. And they stretched it out just because Sean Astin's incredible. So it's just one of those where, if Dustin or Steve or Will had died in episode 2, it would the wheels would have fallen off, So I did slide down Bob just a smidge.
Bill.
if I did have to pick one, I think I would go Steve. Just because it's incredible to see people a year later in love with him and his bromance with Dustin and I still have my critiques. I think the Billy character, I don't think there's as big of a payoff as there should have been. I think the monster, I don't think there was as big of a payoff. But like KB said, there were a few little critiques, but I think overall it's still a home run. So
that quick fire question got real long.
Yeah. Well, when you originally said it, you just said, who's your MVP? You didn't say quickly, who's your MVP?
That's
so I was
all
just
I said.
yeah. So,
Who's your MVP?
yeah. So,
I'm fucking with you. Sorry. It was just too funny because that went into a 5-minute rant.
Yeah.
But I mean, I agree with most of what you said. So, I think that after those three, everybody else has their own little inputs and different movies that we want to quickly mention. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. So my best of 2017 is a little bit random because I don't get to watch as much TV as I would like, but that's my New Year's resolution, y'all. I'm going to watch more TV next year and read more books. But, I tried to, I'm, a little bit into it. That's going to take me at least the next 2 years. So I don't read as much as I like. But I'm going to start off with one of my favorite movies this year, and I would say by itself, not necessarily my favorite movie, but as a collection of movies, as this is a sequel, Creep 2 is in my top best of 2017.
I haven't seen it yet.
Have you seen the first one?
Yes, a long time ago, so I think I would need to rewatch it, but I remember liking it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say you have to watch it again, but I mean, it would just be good just to have a background of the main character, played by Mark Duplass, who's awesome, who helped write the movie, and also directed by Patrick Bryce, who was in the first one. So he was the other guy, not the main character, but the guy who was the videographer. But this movie was released on October 24th, just the video on demand. It has a 100% Rotten Tomatoes score, which is awesome. What I like about it is it's a slow burn, and that always gets me, the building tension. But mainly, here's the IMDb description for anyone who hasn't seen it yet. A video artist looking for work drives to a remote house in the forest to meet a man claiming to be a serial killer, but after agreeing to spend the day with him, she soon realizes that she made a deadly mistake. Movie's only an hour and 20 minutes, definitely in my wheelhouse. I don't know if y'all feel me on that, but I've been known to fall asleep, about that point in movies. That's just how I am.
Same.
Yes. But so the first Creep came out in 2014. This came out this year, so it's supposed to be a trilogy. Hopefully we don't have to wait as long for the next one. But it's just a fun movie. It's suspenseful. So give it a try if you haven't yet. But that's my first best of 2017. And then my second is my Trick or Treat vinyl, which I know that's so random, but
no, I think that's worth it.
Yeah, it's so cool, and they really put so much work into these vinyls, which I'm slowly building up my collection. But they specialize in releasing movie soundtracks of movies like this, like cult favorites, just exclusively on vinyl. But it is a double vinyl with a deluxe picture set, which the cool thing is about the pictures on the vinyls were made by or designed by a guy that has drawn for Marvel and DC Comics. So I thought that was pretty cool. And they work closely with the director and composer to come up with the vinyls. On the last record of this one, there's a sound effects part of it. So the guy that made that, his name is Evan Chin, who did the sound for Season's Greetings, which was also directed by Michael Dougherty, and that's from 1996. Have y'all seen that before?
Nope.
Mm-mm.
So that was just like a little cartoon short. That's the first time you ever see Sam from the movie. So inspired the movie. And I mean, it's just music to it, but you can find it on YouTube. It's called Season's Greetings. So y'all check that out sometime if you just need some background sound or if you just want to watch. It's just a cartoon short. It's super cool. But he did the sound effects for the record. And the first track is the Spooky Guidelines, which opens the movie, which I just love. So it sets the mood, and that's just one of my favorite things. And then I also want to mention my Pennywise pin, which I've known y'all seen me wear.
Yes, it's so awesome.
With the flashing eyes, the Deadlights pin. So that's made by a guy. His name is Shane Murphy. He lives in Massachusetts, and his book company is called Theater of Creeps. And he makes all these fun pins. That's my favorite. Also, the latest ones he's come out with, which I want to get, are he calls it the Judith pin, which I assume that's her name from the movie It, when he sees the painting come to life of the woman.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a pin.
That's awesome.
Oh, cool.
I want to now. Where is this from again?
Theater of Creeps. If you can follow him on Instagram.
I need to look at that.
Yes, he's got so much cool stuff. He's actually a full-time tattoo artist, which is super cool. And then he does this on the side. But another pin is the leper that they run into on the street. So I definitely want that. And then all through the house, the Crypt Tales from the Crypt episode, they've got a pin of the serial killer Santa. So, Shane Murphy, you're making some cool ass shit. And lastly, this is my favorite actor of the year, and my award goes to Finn Wolfhard.
Yay!
Yay!
I love that.
He's awesome. He just turned 15 on the 23rd, so happy birthday, Finn.
He's an angel.
So awesome. He plays Mike in Stranger Things. He plays Richie in It. And he's got another movie coming up called The Turning, which will hopefully be next year, but I think they're doing pre-production on it right now. But it'll be a movie about a haunted house, and he plays an orphan, and they live in a mansion. They've got a nanny. He'll be played by Mackenzie Davis. But that'll be awesome. And also, looking forward to his EP coming out next year with his band Valperna. They're recording, or they should be finishing recording soon, probably. But, y'all, I'm a big fan. I saw everything he does.
Sounds awesome.
An angel.
Yes, he is. I mean, all those kids in Stranger Things and It are just so adorable. Love them. But I think Finn is so awesome. And then I just want to, end my best of 2017 with this podcast. Has been awesome, you guys. This has been the highlight of my year. And even though episode 10 and our interviews we've done with Michael Berryman and Linnea Quigley have been awesome. So that is actually number one. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes.
Oh, so sweet.
I've got a tear in my eye.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to 2018. So.
Hell
Cheers.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
I think
Who's
we'll
next?
interject here. I don't know if we're going to start at the next episode, but in 2018, we're actually going to start a new segment in the show. Lena's going to do kind of we're kind of jokingly calling it like a fact of the week. And it's just it might tie into the show. It might just be, hey, did you know today I figured out that blah, 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 whatever. So it's just going to be something that she's going to interject on the shows. So we were going to do it today, but we kind of want to do a fresh start in 2018, and that'll be kind of like a new segment. So that'll be cool to look forward to.
Yeah,
just kinda
I can't wait.
Keep us on our toes, and she may stump us, and we all are pretty big nerds, so it'll be interesting to see if she can stump us. So
can't wait.
So, yeah.
Yes, it's going to be awesome.
So, who wants to go next?
I can go next.
Yeah.
And I'll ask for a little grace from everyone because I'm a big fan of foreign films and subtitles, and so I'm gonna try really hard to pronounce names correctly, but I probably won't. So please forgive me. Try my best. So one of my favorites of the year suckered me in with the description of when a young woman is transitioning from being like a child to an adult and she becomes like a monster in some way. That's my spot. Like that's what I really love. I wrote my thesis about that. Like I'm right there. I'm right there with Carrie, and I'm right there with one of my favorites of this year, which is a movie called Raw. Have you guys seen this?
I haven't. I've been meaning to. I've been meaning to watch it. I've got it on my list on Netflix, but I haven't committed to it yet.
Yeah.
Yes, it's amazing. So it's on Netflix, and I'll give you, you guys and listeners, heads up. It may not be for everyone. It is very gory. There are a lot of scenes with animals because the character is in vet school. So there's a lot of stuff like that. So I'll just give you a heads up about that. But the movie is about a young woman who is going to vet school. And she's really socially awkward. She doesn't really get along with her classmates. Her older sister already goes to this college, and she's really popular and cool. So that's kind of a hard, difficult thing to deal with, too. And she goes into school, and they do a hazing ritual. I'm like a little concerned about the level of hazing that happens at French vet schools, but it's a little intense. I was like, oh my God, it's like a frat house or something. And she's a vegetarian, but as part of the hazing ritual, she's forced to eat raw rabbit kidneys.
Oh my God.
And so she eats it, and this rabbit kidney has this effect on her body. She starts like getting itchy, and naturally she starts craving meat after years and years of being a vegetarian, and it, just eating raw chicken doesn't really quite cut it. And you can kind of imagine where it goes from there.
That's crazy.
It's really crazy. And it's not just about the intense gore or she's becoming this like cannibalistic kind of like creature. It's about her relationship with her sister, her relationship with her family, and kind of her awakening. She becomes like really like hypersexual, and she starts like really being very passionate and unhinged. And so it's a lot about that, and it's just really fascinating to watch. As long as you don't eat for a little while ahead of time, you should be fine. So I'll give you a heads up.
Or if you're a weenie.
Or if you're just a weenie.
Yeah.
And it's directed and written by the same woman, Julia Ducournau, who's French. And I just think that it's really, really awesome when women in horror are writing movies about women. Because for a long time, horror's gotten a lot of flack for portraying women in certain ways. And whether, we agree about that or not, it's still really important that women are now kind of breaking into the genre even more with making movies like this about women's experiences. And I just thought that was really, really cool. So definitely check it out if you haven't. It's on Netflix, and it's very, very watchable. It's crazy. It's really crazy, but it's a lot of fun. So that's one of my big ones of the year. But yeah, you guys better watch it soon because we got to talk about this.
Okay. Okay.
Another one is a 2017 discovery. It showed up on Shudder. Shudder bought it, and it's George Scott, and it is a Swedish TV show. And it came out in 2015 in Sweden, but it just now made it over here to us, I think this past spring. And it blends horror and this kind of supernatural element with true crime. There's a detective who's trying to solve the mystery of what happened to her daughter, and more kids in the town start disappearing. And so she's trying to solve this problem and trying to figure it out. And it's just really beautiful. Like, the cinematography is amazing. It makes you want to go to Sweden because it's so amazingly gorgeous. And it's very low key, but it has that kind of true crime element that I'm looking for mixed with supernatural stuff. And it's just really fascinating. And you just keep watching because you just desperately want to know what happens next. So definitely check that out on Shudder. It's just fascinating and really, really well done. And then my third one, my third one is Lore. And I've talked about this a bazillion times because I am obsessed with the podcast Lore, and I love the narrator and writer Aaron Mahnke. I think he's so smart, and he has such an amazing narrative voice too. So definitely, if you ever want to like just be kind of calmed but also creeped out at the same time, Lore is perfect for you to watch. But Amazon picked it up and made it into a TV show, and I really like. What are they called? They're not remakes. Dramatizations of past events like the History Channel does. And that's what they do kind of in this show too. So it's a lot of fun to watch, and it reminds you of like the best stuff that History Channel's put out over the years. That's what it looks like to me. And it's really fun, and he does narrate it, and it's a lot of the stories from the podcast. So if you haven't listened to the podcast or you're not a big podcast listener, the TV show is an awesome alternative or support if you already really like it too. So I know Eli likes Lore as well. So
yeah, I watched the episode last night about the history of dolls.
Yes, Robert. Robert's creepy.
Yeah.
Oh wait, is that the doll with no mouth?
Yes.
Yeah,
it looks like he has no mouth.
He lives in Key West. Yeah.
Yes.
And like,
super creepy.
I haven't listened to the podcast, but I've watched a couple of episodes of the show, and talking about it's really like reminding me to like finish it and watch more.
Yeah.
It's just so good. It's nice that you can just put it on and just kind of relax and watch it, because it's, nothing that you want to pay attention, but you just kind of can, read a book or kind of like mess around and stuff while you're watching it and listening to it. It's just really nice. I like it. It's like pleasant and interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then, let's see, my last two things, I'm going to kind of lump them together, are two books. And they're Universal Harvester by John Darnell and Black Mad Wheel by Josh Mallerman. Both of these guys are actually musicians. Universal Harvester is really like, and they're both of these books are really creepy and unsettling. They're not particularly shocking. It's kind of slow, intense books, but they really take you on this like crazy ride. So Universal Harvester is about a guy who works in a video store, kind of like in the 90s. And there's a tape that comes in, and everyone's like, there's something on this tape. This tape is really weird. So he takes it home and watches it, and there's just some like vaguely creepy scenes that are shot in a barn that looks very familiar. And
you will die in 7 days.
Yeah, it's not quite as like obvious as like 7 days, but like, it takes you on this like journey where he's trying to figure out like what is happening, how did these scenes get on this tape.
That's cool.
And he becomes really obsessed with it, and it's really, really creepy.
Tell me the name of that one more time.
Universal Harvester.
Okay.
That's a really interesting.
It's fascinating, and he's such a good writer. He's absolutely amazing. He had this book that came out a few years ago called Wolf in White Van, and it's also just terrific. So if you're a big reader or looking for something that's weird and will kind of shake up your reading life a little, that's perfect. And then Black Mad Wheel takes place after World War II, and this band gets called in because there's a very strange sound coming from a desert in Africa, and this rock band is called in to try to figure out like what happens, because people keep coming back from researching this sound, and they come back like their bodies are crushed, they die, or something crazy happens. So they're trying to solve this mystery of what is this malevolent sound that's like killing people and just being creepy. So that's also really fascinating too. So highly recommend those two books, Universal Harvester and Black Mad Wheel.
That's awesome. We should start a book club whenever we all have time to read. I read very slow.
Which for me, it will be never. I still haven't finished it.
And that's good. Like John, the Universal Harvester book is really short. You don't breeze through it. Like it's not like a beach read, but it's pretty short too. So that's a good one to start with if you're like, I don't really have a lot of time, but I really do want to try to read something creepy. It's perfect for that. Oh, and I have to do my favorite actor, and I'll make this really short. So my favorite actor is Daniel Kaluuya from Get Out, who plays the main character. I think it's Chris. I just think those eyes, man, like just his eyes are just so expressive, and you can just see everything he's thinking, and he does this really great job. And it's very realistic where, we've all been in a situation where like we're trying to be friendly because we don't know someone very well, but they're like weird or creeping you out, or you kind of get the sense that something is off. And he does a really great job at portraying that. And also, he's one of the few horror lead characters who's not like stupid, where you're like, no, don't do that. Like he's really smart and he's on top of it. And I just think that he's absolutely amazing. I'm so glad he's getting nominations for his work because I just think he's brilliant. So I can't wait to see what he does next. He's awesome.
Great choices, Kayla.
Yeah, great
Thanks.
job.
But yeah, book club. Let's do it. I'm ready.
Does that mean I'm next?
Well, I have the word diarrhea, so I'll let you.
Yeah. I'll make fun. Yeah, I'll shorten mine. To make room for Eli because he does have a lot to say. So of course my top movie was It. We've already talked about that. My number 2, and actually I would almost consider this a tie, was Split. And I thought it came out in 2016, but Eli so kindly reminded me that it actually released in 2017, so it does qualify. It feels like forever ago since it came out, but I mean that was almost a year ago. So we're at about a month. It'll be a year. So if you didn't see Split, I'm not going to go into the plot. It's too confusing. you have to watch it because James McAvoy is not only one of the greatest actors, in my opinion. The movie itself was great. It was M. Night Shyamalan who did it, but it's also a tie-in with Unbreakable, which they are currently filming, and it's called Glass. Super excited about that, but Split was just, man, that was almost, if it hadn't released, Split would have been my movie of the year.
Oh, yeah.
I did like that one a lot.
Yeah,
It
it
was
was
just
amazing.
Yeah, James
Yeah.
McAvoy was just unbelievable in that one.
It was really just such a beautiful movie. And like I said, I think I have to tie it with it just because it was so impressive. And James McAvoy does, in my opinion, also deserves an Oscar for it.
Yeah, if he doesn't get some kind of recognition for that.
He plays 23 different personalities, guys. Like, how do you do that?
He's just amazing.
He really is. So that is Split. Like I said, I'm not going to get into the plot because it's really, really interesting, and it's one of those movies where I just can't, in good conscience, give any of the story away. But he has 23 different personalities. That's all you really need to know, and it's James McAvoy. So. Continuing on my list was a very, very close number 2, since I have a number 1 split, which would be Mindhunter. Did anybody watch it?
I finished it.
I love it.
No, I didn't get to. I watched the first episode and I liked it, but I didn't get to delve into it, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's just, I loved it so much.
Well, and if you're
fun.
into the whole serial killer thing, which don't expect it to be really told mainly from a serial killer's perspective, it's actually from the FBI's perspective, but it's opened such a big door for the next season. There's a lot of crazy stuff that's going to go on, and they make it, partially true to history. I was very, very impressed with it. I was excited about it when it was announced. It always really intrigued me because I like movies like Zodiac where it's about the people that are trying to figure it out, especially like 90s thrillers about the like detectives that are trying to figure out who the serial killer is. I love movies like that. So this series, if you're a big fan of stuff like Kiss the Girls, and Along Came a Spider, you will like this. It does have some gore elements to it, but it's really interesting to kind of look at it from the FBI detective sort of perspective. I was a big fan. I can't wait until season 2, which it has been announced that we are getting season 2. So that I don't know if it's coming this coming year or if we're going to have to wait another year for it. I want to say that maybe it's later in 2018 or at least maybe early 2019. I don't know. Does anybody know the answer to this question?
I don't.
I would imagine next year, just because most shows they do every year, kind of like ABC and CBS and stuff. But I haven't heard a confirmation, so.
Okay. Well, I actually changed my last minute. I'm moving it to an honorable mention because my 2017 most recent pick was actually the most recent episode of the most recent season of Black Mirror.
Oh yeah, and that's
wait, was that 2016 or was that 2017? I don't know.
I think we're getting the newest one actually tomorrow.
Oh wait. No, you're right. I'm still thinking a year. Anyways,
it's all running together.
I'm going to say, oh, you're right. Holy crap, that is tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm getting so excited that I'm like fast forwarding time. But let me just, it's going to be on my list. I'll watch it all tomorrow, and it'll still be 2017. So that's just like a precursor choice.
Perfectly fine, and I think we can all agree on
Yeah,
that one.
absolutely. So yeah, Black Mirror comes out tomorrow. Holy shit. I may have to stay up and watch that tonight.
I can't wait.
So my last three that I'm going to mention really, really quick, I'm not going to go into details about them. I just wanted to mention them, was The Devil's Candy, which if you are a fan of the hardcore music, as the kids call it, watch it. It's really fun. It's got some creepy art to it. If you like possession movies, that's another good reason to watch it. I really enjoyed it. And that was, I think, like one of the first reviews I wrote for our website.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So that was a good one. The Devil's Candy, check that out. A Cure for Wellness, which was probably, I don't know, it was one of those wishy-washy picks. Just because it's beautiful and it's really well done. It's really interesting. But at the same time, it's kind of, I don't know.
It's like a million years too long, I think.
Oh, yeah.
It's like an hour too long.
It was definitely, but it's Gore Verbinski, so you get some good visuals.
Sure.
My very last mention has to be The Void, which probably was the movie that grossed me out the most this year.
Whoa, that's saying a lot. I need to watch that.
It's got a lot of practical effects, which really is kind of what drew me in, but it has to do with a cult, but it also has to do with like weird, evil portals and like fantasy shit, and it like almost looks like space. It's really crazy. It's one of the like most mindfuck movies that I've ever watched. It really is reminiscent of The Thing. If you like the weird practical like animatronic effects and shit like that, it's disgusting, but I really enjoyed it, and I don't think I was alone.
Yeah, I loved it. I actually rented it, and I don't remember the last time I've rented a movie. It is on Netflix now, but yeah, it's kind of a mix of, I called it a mix of The Thing and Alien and Hellraiser.
Yeah. That's a pretty
awesome.
good
mixed in with and it starts out with such a 3 minutes into it, you're like, what the fuck? I mean, it's like
you're real. It's real
and
crazy.
That scene,
real fast.
They don't even really show much. It's just the implication, but it's
the implication.
It's awful. It's awful.
Oh man.
Yeah.
And put it in a cult, and I'm right there, just like a cult member
you need to watch it. It's a really, really good movie. I would actually really like to rewatch it sometime soon if I have the stomach for it. But it's really, really good. I was definitely impressed.
Cool. Good to know. Good to know. I need to also not eat for this one and
right.
Food warnings ahead of our reviews.
Yes. So my actor of the year pick was Bill Skarsgård.
Of course it
was. He transformed an iconic character, really made it his own, and he did a good job with it. It's hard to follow up Tim Curry in just about anything, and people have tried and failed, but I think Bill killed it, and I can't wait to see what other weird shit Pennywise is going to do next year. So he was my choice, just because I think that he is like the top guy for the year for me.
Yeah,
that's choice.
That's a big one. Yeah. I will say this about Mindhunter. I do like Hulk. His name's Holt McCallany, I think. He's not the young FBI guy. He's the older guy that smokes.
He's so good. He's Bill, right?
Yes, Bill. Thank you. I was drawing blank. He was in Fight Club, and that's where I remember. Yeah. He's the one that says his name is Robert Paulson. His name is Robert Paulson.
Yeah.
And so David Fincher did both of those, obviously. So that's
I love it.
Yeah.
And he had a primary role, so it was pretty cool.
I also just saw him in Justice League. He was at the very beginning. He's the one that Batman is fighting at the very beginning of that movie, which I literally watched 5 minutes of it. I didn't watch anything past that.
I was about to say, did you watch the whole movie?
I did not.
Oh, gosh. I have no desire.
I did not. So,
I did not.
Okay, is it time for my mouth diarrhea?
Yes.
Go for it.
Do it, boy.
A lot of this I'm just going to kind of skim over, but if y'all have anything to interject, I didn't really... It was kind of funny. This was my idea for the show, but then I didn't pay attention to what we said, so, being the only dude on the show, obviously I wasn't listening, so... I just wrote down. I have a legal pad, and I have a full page of just notes and scribbles and all this. So I did it more as a highlights of the year, not specifically like my top 3 or whatever. So I just wrote down the main categories are TV, movies, and then video games. Believe it or not. So with TV, we still have. This year, we still had the big ones, American Horror Story, Walking Dead, Stranger Things, and Bates Motel ended its run this year. So those were like the big horror-related shows. The one that I really kind of stood out was on Sci-Fi Channel, Channel Zero. This season was called The No End House. It's similar to American Horror Story. Last season was a completely different story. This season, completely different. Next year, they're going to do a completely different, cast and all that. But Amy Forsythe's in it, and she was in Christmas Horror Story, which we all watched not too long ago. And it's very, I guess the best way to explain it, this house shows up. Literally, it shows up. There's like a cul-de-sac. And they get this invitation, and they're like, hey, the No End House is going to show up here, blah, blah, blah. And they drive up, and then there's this house. And you go through it, and it's kind of a real-life haunted house kind of a deal. And then when they get out of it, it's almost like they go to a different dimension kind of a deal. And it's very, like... The cinematography reminds me of like It Follows, like that kind of look and everything. But it's really good. KB's a big fan of this one. Exorcist. It continues to get very big reviews, high reviews, whatever you want to call it. Slasher on Netflix. I love the first season. I'm into the second one. It's really good. It's actually a show from Canada, but it's as the name implies, it is a kind of a love letter to the slasher genre, so it's very violent, very gory. Z Nation is on Sci-Fi. We interviewed Michael Berryman. He's on that show. Outcast is Kirkman, Robert Kirkman's comic book that he does. He does The Walking Dead. That's his other comic book. It's about possession and demons and all that kind of stuff. That's on Cinemax. I don't think they technically released the second season this year, so it's kind of a cheater, but it's already available online if you want to go do that, look for it. I think it's going to be released in the States next year, but it's still incredible. This was one I think kind of slipped under people's radar, but the Castlevania TV show on Netflix was really done very well, very violent.
It was absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. They actually released that soundtrack on vinyl. I don't know who did it, but they did that show's soundtrack on vinyl.
I need a second season. We got no resolution at all.
I think they are. I don't think I heard that they were not. So, and then Taboo, which was on FX, it's Tom Hardy, has horror elements. I wouldn't quite go so far as to call it pure horror, but it's definitely horror elements. So those are kind of like my highlights for 2017 for TV. I just kind of wanted to, mention something that wasn't The Walking Dead or wasn't Stranger Things. So if y'all seen any of this, I know KB likes Exorcist.
Mm-hmm. Which I actually need to finish.
I know. I've got them all recorded. I watched the first season, which I loved, but I haven't watched anything new recently. So I have a lot to watch.
I know this has been fun to exchange notes and get a little list going for what am I going to do for the next couple of days off. I've got a good list now. It's perfect.
Yeah, those are good. So then I just wrote down I thought some pretty big entries into horror. I think we kind of talked about our best of list already, but this year we had Life came out, which was a big budget, big studio, A-lister kind of movie, and a lot of people kind of wish it's almost what they wish Alien Covenant was, kind of a deal, which I guess I'll mention that as well. But Life, Alien Covenant, the second Ouija movie, which was Mike Flanagan, also got really good marks. He also did Gerald's Game, which I would put in the TV or maybe movie. I guess it was more of a movie. Yeah, so.
Yeah, it was a movie.
Happy Death Day, which we talked about. It was a big box office hit, did over 100 million. It Comes at Night, which is something we talked about before we started recording. The director of Krisha did that. That was his first movie, and then this one is his second one. It's kind of in that. It follows Babadook, The Witch, kind of even Get Out is kind of in that wheelhouse. It's definitely more of an art kind of horror, or more of a thinking, intelligent kind of horror. It's not gore. It's not a guy in a hockey mask kind of a deal. So that was good. I saw that in the theaters. It was good. Cult of Chucky came out this year. I've really liked the last two, The Curse of Chucky and The Cult of Chucky. I've really enjoyed how they've kind of reinvented the franchise. And, most horror movies, when they get to part 7 or part 8 or part 9, I mean, it's just, we're talking about like Jason Goes to Manhattan and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's, just really, really bad stuff. Well, these two have been just awesome, the way they've reinvented the franchise. The Babysitter came out this year on Netflix. That was good. Little Evil, which was Adam Scott, we talked about earlier.
That one was a good one.
Yeah. And then Mayhem, which was Samara Weaving, who was in The Babysitter, and then Glenn from The Walking Dead. I forgot his name.
God, if you hadn't, it's Steven something.
Steven Yen?
Yeah, Steven Yen.
Yeah.
God, it's like one of those things you can't ask me questions or I won't know the answer.
So I thought those were all. It's kind of one of those where that's why these notes got so extensive, because once I started looking this up, I was like, holy shit! Like there was more. I think there was more stuff come out and quality stuff than I think we realized. I think a lot of people, if it was in the 80s, they all gravitate towards Nightmare on Elm Street, or this year we gravitated towards It. And, there's quality stuff out there that isn't like the biggest movie in the world, Did anybody see these? I think we talked about The Babysitter.
Yes, I loved The Babysitter.
That was fun. That was definitely a fun one.
Yeah, just a blast.
The other one I had too was Better Watch Out, which was...
Oh, yes.
I
thought that was awesome.
Yeah, that one was... definitely, not what I was expecting, but
yeah, I think Kayla wrote the blog on that, which was very good.
Yes, thanks.
Without giving too much away.
I know. I tried because I feel like it's the fun comes from how little you know about it. That's what makes it so fun.
And the Billy guy from Stranger Things, he's in it, so that's funny.
Yes.
Yeah.
Another reason to watch, y'all.
Oh, and for the record, that
it's really pretty.
Oh yes.
It was filmed in Australia. Like the main four, like the two boys, the babysitter, and then that guy from Stranger Things. They're all Australian actors. the one thing people notice right off the bat is the doorknobs are so high. They're like, what is going on with that? And a lot of the older homes in Australia, that's how the doors were built. So it's,
interesting.
That's interesting.
yeah. That was one of the first things I Googled. Like, what the hell is going on with these doorknobs?
What is up with these doorknobs?
Yeah.
It's like your carpet knowledge of
Dalton, Georgia. Don't forget.
Exactly.
Don't forget.
I love it.
Don't forget. And then I just wanted to mention some of the video games too, because we've talked about. Kayla mentioned some of the books, and we've talked about movies and TV. But I mean, video games have killed it too. Resident Evil 7 came out. Excuse me. That was kind of their version of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So it's like the backwoods redneck kind of family or whatever. Outlast 2 came out. It's also kind of horror related. It's kind of deals with cults, and I'm like, that's basically all I'll say. It's kind of cult. Like, The Evil Within
culty.
2. Yeah, cultish. Evil Within 2, Friday the 13th, obviously. Little Nightmares is really, really cool. It's you're kind of like a 4 or 5 year old kid, and everything's told from like that perspective. So everything's just big, and when you're in a dark room, it's just super, super dark, and it's really interesting take on it. Stories Untold. I have it in my Steam queue, but I haven't played it yet. It's kind of it's almost like you get a VHS from the 80s and pop it in, and then it kind of goes from there. Detention is it's based from like a Taiwan. It's almost like talking about Taiwan, almost like folklore and social commentary. So it's kind of a mixture of two of those things. It got really, really good reviews. And then Bendy and the Ink Machine. It's kind of it's almost animated like 1940s, like Mickey Mouse, like that kind of animation and stuff. But it's really, really well done as well. So yeah. So I just wanted to kind of mention some of the other things that we didn't discuss as far as, we picked out our top ones, but those are kind of the other ones. I think my MVP would be Samara Weaving. She was in The Babysitter and Mayhem. So those are two.
Nice.
Those are two
Cool.
pretty good horror entries. She's also on the Showtime television show Smilf, which stands for Single Mom, I would like to.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
What? No.
sounds familiar.
So that one's
Never heard of it.
Yeah, it's been out like a month now. So, so the diarrhea didn't go quite as long as I thought it was going to go.
Great list, though.
And then I was going to mention some of the passings we had, because we had some like monumental deaths in the horror industry. Number one, obviously, George Romero. He passed away this year. Toby Hopper passed. He did the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But he also did Poltergeist with Steven Spielberg. And he did like Invasion from Mars in the 80s. And he's just done a ton of stuff. Jonathan Demme passed away. He did Silence of the Lambs. It's probably his biggest hit. I think that was the last, or the first, or the last and the first horror movie to win like Best Picture at the Academy Awards. So that's a very important film. Harry Dean Stanton passed away. He was in Alien. He was in Christine. He was in Twin Peaks. He was in Escape from New York. He was a big kind of a background actor, but he had a lot of stuff with the horror and genre films. Bill Paxton passed away. He was in Near Dark, which was the Catherine Bigelow vampire movie. He was also in Aliens. So he said "Game over, man."
Yeah.
Of course,
Bishop.
Yeah, he was in Weird Science. He was in Twister. I mean, he had a really long career. And then John Hurt passed away. He was in Elephant Man, and he was also an Alien with Harry Dean Stanton. He was the one with the chest burster. That was him. So I'm sure there was others that I forgot, but those are I think those are so big, we had to mention those, just from their body or work alone. So that's pretty much my notes for the best of 2017 and the worst, with the passing, of course.
Rip.
Yeah, rip. Cool. So does anybody have any, I guess, final thoughts? I don't know.
Well, we made it.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Barely.
We made it.
Yep.
I'll chime in on some vinyl too, since Lana brought it up. I also got the Trick or Treat vinyl. It is excellent. Also from Waxwork, I got the Thing vinyl. The Thing, of course, John Carpenter. I did sell a kidney, and I got the Nightmare on Elm Street box of souls.
Ooh.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes.
My kidney. I miss my kidney, but it's fine.
It's worth it.
And then this is, I just love when movies do stuff like this, like tie-ins and just fun. You know, like the Stranger Thing DVD set at Target's basically like a VHS, and stuff like that. But the WNUF Halloween special that I've harped on y'all to watch for 3 months now. They did. So I rewatched it around Halloween, and I made a basically someone in the movie. They don't really tell you how it ends, what happens. So I put their face on a milk carton and was like, if you have details, please please call it, whatever. And the director of the movie said something to me on Twitter, we released a tribute album on vinyl for him. I was like, what? And it's a spoof. It's the WNUF TV 28 presents whoever Halloween. It says all proceeds from this album go to fund the Find So-and-so Fund. And on the back, it's this is an exclusive reissue. It's available for the first time since 1987. And, they're just kind of treating it like it's like a real thing. So,
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. But,
thinking about it, my Pennywise pen actually came with a little card that kind of looked like the missing kids on the milk carton things of Richie from It. And it's if you see this kid, call this number and stuff. So I think that's fun.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Well, I talked to once he kind of tipped me off to that. I kind of talked to the director, and I think he'll be down to come on the show and talk about that. Hopefully, we'll have some. I don't know if we'll get anything lined up in January, but hopefully in February we'll get some more interviews lined up. So we'll keep everybody posted on that. So, but yeah, so it was a good year for vinyl too. So I think, unless anyone has any final thoughts, I guess we're done for 2017.
Woo! See you next year, y'all.
Congratulations, guys. We did it.
Yeah.
Thanks to whoever's out there listening. Guys, I'd never thought, in 2017, that I'd be on a podcast. So, Eli, thanks for asking me here.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Because this is not something that I thought I would ever do.
Well, and that's the funny thing is removing the curtain a little bit. I don't think people realize how much we don't know what we're doing. I mean, we're
no idea.
We're figuring it out as we go. So, when I, for those that don't know, on our Facebook page, we have a video banner now. I just kind of figured it out today. I had no idea. I just threw something together, and
yeah, we have no clue.
No clue. And so we've met some people, and they'll ask questions like, "Man, that's awesome! How do you do that with your website?" No clue. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. So it's just
I press buttons until stuff happens.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but it and especially since we got a man down pretty quickly. We got one episode as a 5-piece, and then we've been a 4-piece. So to kind of keep it going, and but it's cool that you guys have been eager and ready to go, and everything's going smoothly. So that's awesome. I guess Kayla can do our socials since we didn't. I don't think we did at the last one.
No, I don't think we did either. So you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Music City Horror. We're also on Indie Popcorn, so definitely check it out through them. I know Eli has our episodes up on YouTube now as well at Music City Horror. So if you just like YouTube, or if that's the easiest one for you to listen to, or you need someone to teach you how to do the podcast apps, you can do that until we figure it out. So... just hunt us down, find us at Music City Horror. We also have a blog up at musiccityhorror.com that we put a lot of love and writing into. So we'd love for you guys to check that out too.
Yeah, we've really been focusing on Facebook, and we just want to say thank you to everyone that has liked the page recently. As of now, we're almost to the 4,000 mark. So
yay, that's so cool.
Yeah, so
thanks everyone.
So hopefully at least a fraction of them are listening. That would be good. So
yeah.
But yeah, so,
one of them is my mom.
Yeah.
Hi, Mom.
I know. Hi, my mom. You don't know what we're talking about, but I love you.
I told her, I was like, hey, Mom, I cuss a lot. And she was like, well, I haven't heard that one yet. And I'm like, sorry.
It's happening.
Right.
Yes.
Well,
funny.
Hopefully we will have some cool stuff coming soon. That's all I'll say, basically. We've just got some stuff we're working on, and hopefully we'll have some stuff soon that we can announce, and it may be something that we can all meet in public with our listeners, and maybe it's something that could be cool. So, yeah.
Woo.
So, I guess that is all for 2017, and the next time you listen will be a new year, who dis. So,
Yes. Happy New Year, everyone.
Yeah.
If you get out,
Let's
in the
get through
cold,
the next year, please.
Yeah, if you get through the freezing cold this weekend, be careful.
Yeah. I'm
Right.
now.
God, yeah. I'm freezing and hungry. So, good night, everyone.
Yeah, thanks for listening, and we will
Thank you for
see
listening.
next time.
Yeah.
And we'll
Bye,
see you in
everybody.
2018. Bye.
Bye.
See you on the other side.
Bye.